Welcome to another weekly spark. This week, taking you from doubt to decision in 7 questions. And of course, as an authentic alignment coach, I am helping you to do this based on your own value systems, interests, preferences, and greatest desires within you. Oftentimes, when we're in a place of doubt, it's not so much that we don't have the answer, but we're unsure if the answer that we have is the right one. As we dive into today's video, you can download your free PDF that accompanies this video. So it outlines each of the 7 questions we will be asking today, because a big part of this process is you implementing it into your own life. So either do it throughout this video or, again, download your free PDF in the link below. In addition to downloading that PDF, give this video a like if you are particularly excited about this week's topic, and comment your thoughts below. Recently on a podcast interview, I was asked why so many people feel scattered. And I loved that he used the word scattered specifically, because that is one that a lot of my clients share with me. They feel scattered. And it makes a lot of sense from my perspective, because our world is filled with so much information. And oftentimes when we're in a place of doubt, which is of course what we're talking about today, it's not so much that we don't have the answer, but we're unsure if the answer that we have is the right one. We have an inkling, we have an intuition, we have a prediction, and then it's about building the confidence and the clarity. Is that the quote-unquote right one? And of course, with authenticity being our focus here at Yes And, the right decision is the right one for you, not the right one as declared by anyone else. So through the 7 questions today, we will be helping you to work from doubt to decision by unscattering your mind, getting clarity on what your instinct already is, and assure yourself if that is the quote-unquote right direction for you at this time. Question number 1 prompts you to outline your question, the decision at hand, and right away to take your best guess. Obviously, this is step 1 of 7 in this process, so your best guess doesn't have to be the final guess. It doesn't have to be right. Just take what feels right in this moment. And of course, you can repeat this over and over until it really feels right by the end of this process as well. Right away, I'm going to walk through questions 2 through 7, and then at the end of introducing the questions, I'll give you an example to see what these questions look like in real time. So after writing your question and taking your best guess, go on to question 2. Why do you doubt this decision? If you haven't made the decision, which means there's some little hint of doubt or hesitation there, ask yourself why. And then as you write out all of those reasons, ask, does that matter? Question 3 takes this even a step further to say, is that true? So even if it matters, it may not be true, or there may be something even more true, which I'll go on to explain in the examples in a moment. Question 4 helps you to dive even a little bit deeper into where this is all coming from by asking, what part of you is doubting this decision? What part of you has these reasons for the doubt? I have another training on this channel that is one of my favorites to do with clients, especially if you are particularly resonating with that word scattered. And what it is caricature work. It's outlining and delineating all the different parts of who we are, our personalities, our interests, our skills, our values, and it's building little caricatures to represent each. Every single time I do this with myself and with my clients, it clarifies what's actually going on. So that's what this question is getting at. It's saying, what part of you, out of all of the parts, the preferences, the values, the interests that make you, you, is having these doubts? And more often than not, it's coming from a particular part of ourself, a particular value or interest or desire that will help to clarify whether or not you want to listen to that part of yourself or bring in some other perspectives to this decision. And on that note, question 5 asks, is there a part of you that's rooting for this decision? So even if there is a part of you that doubts this answer, that best guess that you outlined in question 1, there may be a part of you that's really wanting that to be the answer. And ask yourself, just like you did in the previous question, what part might that be? Is it a different value, a different interest, a different desire, a different fear that is rooting for the answer that you took as your best guess in question 1? Question 6 has you take a step back and take a fresh perspective to ask, what positives could come of this decision? So even if you're still doubting it, even if there are a few good reasons why not to make this decision, outline again, just for perspective, just to broaden the scope of what's possible and what is true here, to say what positives could come of this decision if I chose to make it? And then question 7 challenges you to rewrite your question, rewrite the decision at hand, and ask yourself what answer, what decision feels most trusting. This question at the end, to say what answer feels most trusting, inherently includes all the previous questions that you have already brainstormed with. So trust that you have done a lot of work to get up to this point. And if, by and large, it feels mostly good, maybe there's still some fears there, maybe there's still even a little bit of doubt. If it does feel trusting, if you feel like you can lean on that answer, ask yourself, what's one step I could take toward that answer? And this isn't even to say that you have to follow through forevermore with that decision. Rather, by taking action and gathering data through action on your experiences leads to greater clarity and confidence because you have already stepped toward something, which either clues you in to, yes, this is the right decision, this is the right direction, or pretty quickly you'll learn, no, this isn't, and I want to step back to the drawing board and walk through this process again to choose something different. So for many of my clients, making a decision can feel really scary and overwhelming because there is this underlying belief that it is the only decision they will ever make. And that is simply not true. That does not need to be true. So this last question really challenges you to step toward something. So as promised, let me give you an example of what these 7 questions look like in real time. I will take you back to a time that some of you know about if you have read my book, which, by the way, Ready Enough is your 7-step guide for life's hardest decisions. So if this process, taking you from doubt to decision, isn't feeling quite sufficient for what you want right now, the support you want, and the level of detail in this process, please, by all means, get yourself the support you need, and maybe that is Ready Enough, your 7-step guide. So in that book, I walked through one of my challenging decisions, which was whether or not to leave a PhD program. So the first question, to outline the question, to outline the decision, and take your best guess. At the time, I can take myself right back to the moment when I was on the phone with my coach, starting to make this decision. It was, do I leave the PhD program? That is my decision outlined in a question. And my best guess was yes. When I wrote it down and did this exercise myself, I wrote yes, question mark. So if your best guess still feels like a question mark, again, that is okay. That's just a starting point for us to continue through this process. Question 2, why do I doubt this decision? Why I doubted that decision at the time to leave the PhD program is because I was hearing from those around me that it was a really smart decision to stay in the program. So my advisors, my parents, well-intended friends and peers, or by direct advice saying, you know, maybe you should just stay in the program, finish up this PhD, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so I was gathering all this data around me that my answer, my instinct, yes, leave this program, was one to doubt, because I wasn't getting much assurance on the outside that that was a smart decision to make. Furthermore, even though I felt pretty sure about that decision, I didn't really have an alternative. I didn't have a reason to leave in the sense of this is what I want to do instead. All I had was this feels misaligned, and that led to even more doubt in myself, my instinct, and my decision at hand. Going into that second part of question 2, why does this matter? It mattered because I felt like I didn't have adequate justification. It felt like I didn't have much to back my choice. And furthermore, it was definitely a shift in trajectory. It was a shift in my career trajectory. It was a shift in what I saw my future to be. It was a shift for a lot of my advisors and parents and friends and family. And so it felt like I needed some justification, and I felt like I didn't have it. So going on to question 3, is that true? Taking myself back to that time and being honest. Yes, it did feel true. It felt very true that I needed justification to leave. I needed more justification or reasons to make a decision that felt so contrasting from those around me. Now, in hindsight, I can say it didn't really matter. If my instinct was there, then I can trust that instinct, walk forward, and figure out the rest later. But I didn't yet, or I was in the process of building confidence to let instinct alone, to let my intuition alone be enough to justify a decision. So I can answer that question in 2 ways. Is that true? Yes and no. If you have a similar answer to that question, that's okay. And I included that question as one of the 7 because sometimes we can just ask ourselves, is that true? And the answer is really clearly no, which alleviates the pressure and help dismantle limiting beliefs that we may be living by. Going on to question 4 with this example, where is this doubt coming from? I mentioned that a lot of that doubt was rooted in the fact that it contrasted what those around me were saying is right and best. Therefore, I can identify that this doubt was coming from the people pleaser in me, or the part of me that really values others' opinions and wants to listen to what is right, what is researched, what others advise based on their experience. I wanted to include that as part of my experience, knowing that I don't know everything. This doubt was also coming from the planner part of me. Again, I said I didn't really know the alternative, even though I knew what I was stepping away from. And so the planner in me was really looking for, why are we leaving, and therefore where are we going next? Just as I did, and I invite you to do, I invite you to notice these parts of you not as bad or wrong, simply as parts of you that are bringing up values and things to consider in the decision-making process. So the people pleaser, I feel like, gets a bad rep these days. And although to the extreme the people pleaser can lead to us not fulfilling our own needs, stating our own desires, and pursuing our own fulfillment, the people pleaser is also a great place to access empathy and to access taking responsibility for our actions. Furthermore, in my example, it's a great space to consider others' opinions and experiences and learn from others in a way that would be valuable for our own decisions. So when we identify these parts of us, it is not to feel ashamed or to feel like we are bad for letting those parts of us kind of rule this decision or these doubts. Rather, it is just to identify where they're coming from and get curious about even using that to our benefit. Going on to question 5 in the example, was there a part of me that was rooting for the decision to, yes, leave the PhD program? Absolutely, and maybe you've even picked up on this already. It was my intuition, it was my gut feeling, and my overall well-being that was saying it is best for me to leave. It was best for me to pursue something different. And eventually I could build up my relationship with that part of me, with my intuition, to trust that alone as enough. And again, at the time, that relationship wasn't quite there yet. And so it's okay if you can recognize there's a part of me that's rooting for it, and there's even a larger part of me that is doubting this, and honor that, and that's okay. If you've read my book, you also know I identify a part of the decision-making process as an oh shit stage, which is a stage to sit and let a decision feel a little bit big and daunting. And of course, I help my clients get through that stage. And I don't want to dismiss that that is part of the journey sometimes. Sometimes to feel that bit of, gosh, I really am doubting this, is okay and can even be cause for more celebration in the future. Because once I make a decision, I can reflect back and say, yeah, even though I doubted during that period, even though I felt so uncomfortable or frustrated or whatever the emotion was, I still was able to follow through and find my own greatest alignment. Moving on to question 6 with this example, what positives could come from this decision? So again, even though I was still at that time in a place of doubt and not really knowing if I was ready or courageous enough to step toward that decision, I still saw the positives. I thought, what else could be possible besides this original path I had paved for my life? What other careers and relationships and friendships, opportunities and cities that I could live in is possible if I chose something different? Furthermore, leading on that part of me that was cheering for the decision to leave, again, I knew in my gut, in my intuition, that it was best for my well-being. So what positives could come from this decision is I would feel better. I would be better. And moving on to question 7, restate the question, do I leave this PhD program? And then ask, what decision feels most trusting? And what is one step I could take toward that trusting decision? For me, and you know this if you've read Ready Enough, I did choose to leave the PhD program. I said yes. That decision felt most trusting. Was I scared? Certainly. Did I know yet what my future was going to hold? No. And in fact, that's rare to know what our future holds. And so I leaned on my trust, on my intuition, and I heard the fears. I heard the doubts, but ultimately that wasn't where I wanted to make the decision from. I wanted to make that decision from a place where I trusted my well-being, my intuition, and my whole self. At the time of making this decision in my life, one of the first action steps I took to walk toward that decision was to hire support. to hire a coach to help me with that decision. I knew in my gut the answer, and yet I needed that extra support to help me walk through this a few times, to build my courage, to help me to feel ready enough, to plug my book title, to feel ready enough to make a decision that felt true for me and still had some doubts there, and to know that those doubts can still remain and I can make a decision that is best for me and trust the process. So at the end of that example, and at the end of asking yourself these 7 questions, I understand if you feel a little gypped and that doubt doesn't completely disappear. And can we turn that around, same coin, different side, and say, doubt is always going to be there. So it's not about eliminating it. And maybe that's the good news, because you can still make a decision in trust and in confidence, even in the face of doubt. This exercise will certainly help you to identify where this doubt is coming from and address, do you want to follow that doubt? Is that doubt even true? These reasons that you're coming up with in your mind, and to outline that and to lay it out there really decreases the power that it has when we leave it in our mind to fester. And again, it may not be eliminated completely, and that is the good news, because you don't have to eliminate it completely to trust that you are ready enough to decide, ready enough to face that doubt and to decide if you're going to listen to that doubt and listen to the parts of you that you want to follow, that you want to trust, that you instinctually know are best for you. Again, a huge part of this work is doing it yourself. So if you haven't already, download the PDF that outlines these questions and walk through them yourself. If you're seeking even more detail and guidance to make your life decisions, then read the book, Ready Enough. It's available on paperback and Kindle. You can download it today, receive it in the mail, and walk through this step by step with the encouragement of my own stories, of my clients' stories, and even more practices to help guide you and support you in the decision and action process. Comment your insights, your ahas, your questions below. I read every one of them and appreciate you for engaging with this community. And lastly, to support this channel and also support yourself, like this video, share it with a friend, build in that accountability, and subscribe to this channel for weekly alignment trainings every Tuesday. That is all for this week. My name is Maren Lauka. I am the owner of Yes And, where I empower you to dismantle the limiting beliefs of how life should be so that you can own your potential, experience true fulfillment, and make your positive impact. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week for another video.